some police officers should not be. And I'm sorry. We all know a few.
A police officer has been charged with pretending to be disabled while dancing and drinking at a music festival, skiing, even running a 5K. Orange County reporter David Gonzalez live in Westminster on the felony charges she's now facing for the alleged workers' comp fraud. David?
Michelle, we reached out to the Westminster Police Department, but they had no comments. The Orange County District Attorney's Office calls her actions shameful, and they say the real victims are the taxpayers.
For a police officer to engage in that kind of behavior is absolutely disgusting.
Former Westminster police officer Nicole Brown faces serious prison time for allegedly stealing hundreds of thousands in fraudulent workers' compensation payments after telling her department she was unable to work due to an injury she suffered while on duty in March 2022.
She suffered a small abrasion to her head. She went to the emergency room that day. The doctor cleared her without any restrictions on duty. She took a couple days off after that and then told her department that she had been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury by a doctor who put her on temporary disability.
The Orange County District Attorney's Office claims Brown collected more than $600,000 tax-free, including all medical bills.
She was engaged in an incredibly active lifestyle where she was running, skiing, going to Disneyland, doing all these things that she said she could not do working as a police officer.
The DA's office launched an investigation after Brown was caught dancing and drinking at Stagecoach Country Music Festival.
People who knew that she was on full disability witnessed her behaving in a way that was not consistent with what she was telling her department.
Brown's stepfather, Peter Gregory Schumann, a licensed attorney practicing workers' compensation defense for insurance carriers, is charged with helping a stepdaughter orchestrate the fraud.
He was representing her at some of the meetings with the department and her case manager, where he was describing what she was prohibited from doing.
Brown is now charged with 15 felonies, including making a fraudulent statement to obtain
50
compensation.
felonies. All right, let's talk about this. So
Yeah.
I know highway patrol officers that have been busted to this. I know you guys have officers. Let me tell you a quick story. I broke in West LA in the 90s, and I was on the weekend. I went to a video conference about video production because I was a TV producer before I was a cop. So I was really still into that, still am to this day. And I went to this thing and I met a private investigator, and she was in line with me, and we're talking. There was a lot of gadgets, there are video gadgets and stuff, and the private investigators are obviously into that. And she was telling me, I said, I'm a new highway patrol officer here in LA or something like this. Is like 98 or whatever. And she said, I'm a PI. And she goes, yeah, I worked on the such and such case. And I go, I don't know. She goes, you didn't hear about it? The CHP sergeant who was claiming workman's comp, and then she was out doing rodeos, while she's, and I go, oh, yeah, I did learn about that in the academy. And she goes, yeah, it was the most famous workman's comp case out there at that time, where, she claimed she had injuries, and then she was out, the private investigators go out there and videotape her taking part in all these activities, which you're not supposed to be doing. And that's been out 30 years, right? So, and I've now as a PI, I see a lot of it. And then you guys, we've all worked with people at our agencies who have been busted for this and continually get busted for stuff like this.
So I'm going to tell you something. When this story came out, and I'm not going to name any names, but there were some people that saw it, and apparently I saw what they were writing on social media, how absurd this was, and how disgusted they were in this, and how they can't believe that somebody. And I'm looking at it, and these are the same officers, and one of them was on. I remember was on disability, and won a medal in police Olympics in skiing. And I remember reading the thing when I was reading the stuff going, wait a minute, how she's supposed to be on the, how do you win an Olympic?
That's going to be easy to figure out.
How do you win an Olympic medal? Okay. And anyway, I'm not going to say their name.
What state? They live in Idaho. Do they live in Idaho now? Okay.
I think so. And then there's another one that the same absurdity, the same, and they're the biggest scammers that I knew that were scamming the department, but now they're all pissed off. And the only thing I could think of is, are they mad because she out-scammed them? But then again,
I don't know.
She got caught. But
this is our opinion,
they got it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Here's another one. before I was a supervisor, I was the admin officer for my supervisor. So I did all the timesheets. We had this one officer that could just call in whenever they wanted, and they would just, they could take a day. They had an open-ended disability. I'm like, what does that mean? It means if they didn't feel like coming to work that day, they just didn't come to work, and they called up and they took the day and they got a disability day. And I'm like, there's no such thing. And apparently there was. So this particular officer was always working extra pay jobs on their day off. I'm going, okay, so you come to work to your job 2 days a week to your normal job, then you work 2 days of overtime, and then you don't come to work at least 1 to 2 days because you take
gotta get that OT detail in, man. And I'm like, got to make that bow payment, bro.
Well, the thing that really what happened was I finally went to my supervisor and I said, look, I don't want to sign these timesheets anymore because it's complete fraud. I happened to be at a festival. And I had just finished the timesheets the day before. The next day, it was my day off. I go to this festival, and I see this girl. This officer walking through the festival, holding a beer and a pepper steak. And I said to her, I go,
"Can I have a bite?"
I said, "Is that what the doctor said is best for your headaches? A beer and a pepper steak?" Yeah. I go, and that's when I went to my supervisor. I said, "I'm not doing these timesheets anymore." I said, You want to let this shit happen? I go, I want to get promoted someday, and I don't want my name on signing these timesheets. And so, I mean, this stuff's been going on for a long time. I mean, we all know.
The sad thing is that it takes away from the people, the officers, and people that get legitimately hurt and disabled and can no longer do the job, or they have to go do something else, and this is a fraud. And when Schwarzenegger became governor in 2008, I think it was, right, or 2006, whenever it was, the big part of that was the fraud. A lot of the PIs now, private investigators, there's a lot of work in workman's comp fraud. That's kind of the cutthroat business of the PI business. They're all lowballing one another to get the gigs.
Yeah.
But there's so much work out there as private investigators to find fraud claims like this. I don't even take workman's comp stuff, but I got my own stuff going on. But that a lot of this is out there. These insurance companies are out there and agencies are out there. Remember during COVID, they were sending private investigators out to see if people were actually how are they doing? They were working. If they weren't out. They said they were at home working, but they're actually out with their kids doing something during COVID or something like that. There's companies hiring private investigators to check on that or something like that. So but as police officers, man, we're not saints. We're not angels. Not all have great intentions. Nope. Fraudsters and crooks get in our line of work.
It depends.
And I have friends that only promote the good things cops do. Well, that's not reality. The reality is that just because a cop says something, double check it.
We select from society, and also it depends on the agency. Some agencies take workers' comp fraud serious, and some, obviously, after hearing what Scott's story, don't take it as serious. And I remember as a rookie deputy at the sheriff's office, some guy was on workers' comp, and I don't know how internal affairs got a hold of, but they went out to visit him, and he was pouring concrete.
Yeah,
and that was it. He lost his career, and he wound up getting prosecuted for workers' comp fraud.
Tony, we'll hire you if you promise to wear your Raiders outfit when you go out there, because that will blend in really well over there on the east side. All right. No.
Yeah. Well, we've had guys too when they've retired and they get these disability retirements, and then you see, like, I don't want to say the guy's name. I'm not even going to tell you what kind of business.
What state did he retire to?
I'm not going to tell you what kind of business he's running, but the business he's running is a very you know what I'm talking about, Steve? A very active business. You got to be in really good shape to do this, right? And he's on the news because they're talking about what this great business, this retired cop is doing and what have you. And I'm watching the news. I'm going, he's on a disability retirement. What the hell is he doing? I go,
maybe he's running from his wheelchair.
Yeah.
Give him another out.
Again, going back.
I just saw him at the Mardi Gras the Mushroom Mardi Gras wheeling down the street eating a pepper steak.
Yeah, and I was always as a young deputy, I was kind of confused because I remember one time our undersheriff ran for he ran for sheriff, and he lost. Right, he lost the election. Well, and the next day he files for disability retirement. And I'm going, wait a minute, you were healthy enough to run for sheriff, but you lost.
He got his feelings were hurt.
How do you get a disability?
Yeah, it hurt.
His feelings are hurt. His disability. Tough guy. He doesn't have. His hands aren't registered weapons with FBI like ours are.
Couldn't comprehend that. I go, am I the only one that sees something odd here?
I know a lot of fools that became cops. I'm sorry, I do, and I'm not perfect. I'm not the best one ever. I'm way down there, but I'm just saying I tried to do the right thing. And then all the overtime bullshit, just everything's trying to get overtime gigs, but they don't want to help me recover a car, or they want to help, but they'll take that overtime real fast.
Yeah.
So I mean, hey, whatever. I laugh at the stories I see about SFPD, some of the overtime scandals and stuff like that. But
it's just that maybe a case like this is going to finally have some crackdown. But
I'll keep going.
And the penalty's pretty stiff on workers' comp fraud. They get some pretty stiff penalties.
Right. Okay, well, let's so yeah, this happens a lot actually, doesn't it? Let me let's keep I fell behind